Welcome to the Dev Banner. My name is Eric Smith, and I'm from the United States. I have a little bit about me. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science, and I have been developing software engineering for 22 years now. And I am making this channel with these goals in mind, is to introduce Go. This channel is for beginners. Hopefully in time we'll be more advanced, but for right now it's beginners. So if you know a lot of things already about software engineering, software programming, you might want to come back a little later. One of the main things I want to do is to help through programming, is to help you develop some software engineering principles, and then maybe learn some other tools that software engineers, software programmers use. And the big thing is to give back to this community, this ecosystem. So what I want to do is introduce Go to you. If you go over to Wikipedia or whatever, those that know, don't know, it comes from Google, started by these three guys right here that sitting around saying, hey, we don't like the languages of what they're doing at the moment. Let's design our own. And so 2009, they introduced Go to us. I started using it in 2013. And with my experience with C and C++, it felt very natural for me. So to make this video a little short, so it's not so long, I'm just going to get into installing Go and setting up what I plan to do in this video series, in these episodes. So open a browser, go ahead and do, Golang, download. Whenever you search for anything Go related, I would use the word Golang, because Go is pretty generic word, and you'll get definitely more results. So pretty easy. Come to this page, download the OS that's right for you. I'm on a Mac, so this would be something that I would install. If you're on Windows, I will do my best to help you with the differences between Windows and Mac. I have installed Windows, and I have installed Go on Windows. Done some programming, some development work in that ecosystem, but for the most part, I stay on Mac. And then once you've done that, I would, once you installed it, then bring up a terminal, bring up on Windows PowerShell or something like that, and all you do is go version. And once you've done that and you see this Go version and the version that you've downloaded, which in this case at this time of recording it's 1.19, then you're good to go. Okay, now that you have Go installed, there's one more thing you need to do, and that is to set a Go path as a environment variable. So if I was to echo mine, and I'm just going to do this here in terminal, Mac or Linux, and I echo this out, it shows this path through my user, and then I've set up these couple other directories. And what Go path does is it gives a point of reference for Go to find files it needs to compile and to get things straight, whether it's a library or even a binary that Go has installed to use for itself. And then you would echo that and put that as part of your path, or export that as part of your path. So if you were to look at my my bash profile, then you'll see that I got a lot in here because I do a lot of aliases and stuff, but you'll see that I create it right here, and then I export it to the path and add it to the path. It looks like I also added bin also so that it can find executables, binaries that Go has installed. And I'll explain more to that when we get to it. So for Windows, I do have an example, and because I've installed Go on my Windows computer at one point, and it's still there. So I went to run, typed in this command, sysdm.cpl. There's probably another way to get to this system property, but you click on environment variables, and then you set something like this. You'll see that I also set this Go root. You would set that if you had an alternative place you wanted the main Go binary is set in your system. Other than that, once you set that, unless you change how you where you put all your files that you're working with and your repos, your Git repos, you never have to do this again. So the next thing you would want to do is download an IDE. I personally like Visual Studio Code, and I'll show this in a minute, but has a lot of great built-in things, and the IntelliSense is pretty good for the packages for Go. Debugging is a lot better than it was 5 years ago. It has built-in Git if you want to use that. I'm a command line guy, and I will actually plan on giving a small introduction Git video as an extension to this one, but those who already know Git can bypass that video. And then extensions, and these are some extensions that I use, but this is the main one that you would install with Go for development in Go. And once you do that, one of the things that Visual Studio will do, it will say, hey, do you want to install, you'll get a little prompt down here, do you want to install the tools for Go? And I think one of them is called Go PLS. Actually, I'm going to do a Shift Command P, and what this does is it brings up a list of subfunctions that's you could do in Go or in Visual Studio. And so if I prefix Go : then I'm going to get all the ones that are related to Go. And if I install this install update tools, so sometimes you need to do this, then these will be the tools that Visual Studio will want to install along with the Go extension. So like the debugger, for instance, is installed for you, and that's what this delve is the debugger. And there's that Go tests. It's a really quick sub-menu that will generate tests for you. It's really awesome. I'll explain that. We'll have some examples of that coming down in future episodes. So it's really, there's some really nice things that are built in when you install this stuff and you're using Visual Studio. And if you use something else, by all means, go ahead and use it. I don't think it should change the way we're doing, as we develop and as we go through this project. Now, that's the next thing I want to talk about is this project. So I had in mind to create an application that we could write together, and the goal is to get you, familiar with Go, actually write an application. Um, it's a budgeting application, meaning that you would take in a CSV file and of your transactions off your credit cards or your bank statements or whatnot, and we would take those in, categorize them, and then you would put a budget for those categories, and then if you for the month go over or under, it kind of will keep a running total for you. Something like what Lime is, that you or the services that you have online. Maybe even your credit union, your bank does it for you. It's a very manual process. You'll have to go and grab your transactions, but I think in the long run, the functionality that this thing has to offer to teach you this language and to help you, learn some software engineering principles will be beneficial. So I call it Prognos. It's Swedish for forecast. I hope that's right. That's what Google Translate gave me. I just like finding cool names as just as a code name for my projects, and that just looked really cool. So let's look at Go, for instance. Let's look at I made a hello world.go. One of the things I like about Go is the keywords or reserved words for the language is pretty small. If we go back to here, I think I have a list of those. And as you see, some of the popular languages out there have quite a few. Go is down at 25. So that tells me, hey, there's not a lot of exceptions to the rules. There's not a lot of rules. But every language and programming itself has rules to it. So there's ones you're going to have to follow. And Go definitely has theirs. But knowing that there's not a lot of reserved words or keywords, the language is relatively simple. And I think it's a great language to learn on. So package is a reserved word. All these words that are blue are reserved words. And here, all I'm saying is this package is main. This, where I'm at, is part of main. You have to have main, or the compiler won't know where to start its compiling process to link to other files. And it does that with import. Now, FMT is a built-in package or standard library package, and it implements IOs with functions, and that's kind of how you just print out to the command line and whatnot. So we're bringing that one in, and then if wherever main is at, now you can have multiple. If I was to make another file in here, I'd have to call it main. But there's only one file that can actually have the function main, and that's where the executable starts. And if you have all that together, then you can go ahead and run it. Now there's a couple of ways to run it. There's go build, which will actually create an executable of the folder that it's in. So I actually already have that right there. Or, and I typically use go build. So like I always do go build dot, and then whatever. And I reuse this terminal and build it and run it all at once. But you can also do go run, and you give it a file name. So hello world.go. And so we're just going to run this. And this just runs it without compiling it, without creating a binary. It compiles it, obviously. So there you go. That's our first. That's our first program. Pretty simple. So the next thing is this layouts for your directories and what we're going to. There's a standard that I like to go by, and It's in this GitHub repo called Golang standards. And you don't have to. As you can see, I could put everything in this directory, multiple files that holds multiple snippets, functions, structs, everything that's Go needs, but it will get me overwhelming. And one of the engineering principles is modularizing your code so that you know where things are at, so you can go fix them and be able to troubleshoot and maintenance. So that's what the standard project layout is. As you see, there's a CMD. I actually have an internal folder, and I use this pretty heavily. If I'm making a really quick little application, I usually don't. But if it's something that is going to be really long term, then I try to stick with this. So go over this this repo and get some information and look to see what it does and where everything is. But command is there to, like, if you're going to have maybe multiple binaries that starting point mains, you can. This would be the place to do it. So here you would maybe have a REST server, maybe you have a gRPC server, and then you would, I'm just going to delete that one really quick, and you would have a some kind of main in here, and also a main in here, and you would compile it there. And so this is going to be part of this prognos that we're going to be going over. So familiarize yourself with this layout. Get Go installed, get Visual Studio solved, and I have a README at this location for this project, and it's at github.com/blackflagsoftware. And the public repo is called Prognos. Let me see if I can bring that in. I have that in another, and that's where it's at. So you'll be able to clone that and go through this README. Kind of explains that I'm going to have episode, and I did N, which is 1 or 2 or 3, and I'm going to have to do, this is going to be your homework. Every episode, I'm going to put it to a state and say, okay, work on this stuff. And you be able to take that branch and look at it and say, okay, what do I need to do? I gave this little your project, your version, and a little idea of how to make it yours. So you'd create your own folder, start from fresh. You can copy paste from maybe this to-do branch. And once again, I'm going to have a different video talking about Git and how to get it. So look for that in a couple of days, or it might actually already be out there by the time you watch this. And it will be optional if you don't know Git very well. But I think overall, the project's going to be really good. And then what I'll do is I'll put a done also, meaning I'll start something and then give you time to work on it, and then you'll see what I've done for that week, for that episode. And you can compare, and if you get stuck, you can go look at my code and all it is a change of branch in Git to see those changes. So that's the project. Last thing, I would like to make these really short and space them about a week apart. I'll put links in the videos of the things that I showed you today. And if you have any questions, comments, go ahead, leave them in the comments of the video, and I will address those. It might be a different video, or it might be just part of the next episode's format.
Please subscribe to the channel and make sure notifications are turned on.